Hi everyone, welcome back to Life Technologies YouTube channel, and thank you so much for watching this episode. So this is a continuation of our IPRAN service configuration and HoVPN architecture implementation on Huawei routing devices. You know that we've already discussed 7 sessions. We've demonstrated how to do the basic configurations like for IGP, ISIS. We've also demonstrated how to configure the VPN instances, how to implement BGP on the routers, and also we demonstrated how to configure the HoVPN solution on Huawei routing devices. So in this episode, we are now starting to configure services, and we'll be focusing on how to do service configuration on the UPE and the BTS. Remember, on the IPRAN solution, we have the BTS, which is the base transceiver station, and this base transceiver station will be supporting different radio access technologies. So the BTS will be connecting to the UPE. The UPE, it's like the CSG, which is the access device that is installed at site. So we have to configure the BTS with the services. We also have to configure the UPE with the services, and the two should be able to communicate. From the UPE, you should be able to ping the BTS IP, and from the BTS, remember that we are configuring the gateways on the UPE. So you need to also be able to ping the gateways for different services on the UPE. So we've already demonstrated how to configure BGP. For example, if I check on this router, if I display BGP VPN v4 all peer, you see that we have BGP peering session to the NPEs and also to the UPEs. If I display IPVPN instance, you can see that we already have 5 VPN instances have been configured: 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and O&M VPN. If I display ISIS peer, you can see that we have peering sessions to the UPEs and also to the SPE and the NPE. So the reachability is okay. Our BGP is established. If you check on the UPEs, you will see that if I display IP routing table, VPN instance to GVPN, we should be having a default route coming in from the SPE or the ASG. On UPE2, we also expect the same. If I display IP routing table, VPN instance 5G VPN, I expect to be getting a default route under this VRF or the VPN. So the routing part has been done. From the SPEs, they are able to advertise default route to the UPEs. They don't advertise specific routes. If you check on the SPE, display IP routing table, VPN instance to G VPN, you can see that it's having the loopback address. It's having a static routing towards this loopback, and it also has a routing under this VPN. So it's not advertising this 10.10.10 to the UPE because we've configured it to only advertise the default route towards the UPE. So we've done the basic configurations, the BGP, ISIS, VPN instances, and now we need to start configuring the services. Remember, in this case, we are implementing the SRAN solution. So with SRAN solution, you have different services and you have just one connection from the BTS to the UPE. And this one physical connection will be able to cover all the different services that will be configuring, all the different radio access technology that we have in this network. So you know that we have 2G for 2G services, 3G for 3G services, we have 4G, 5G, and O&M. And you can have as many services as you want. If you could have 5G signaling, 4G signaling, 4G user plane, 5G user plane. You can design it the way you want to be. So we have VLANs, and remember that on the UPE we'll be configuring sub-interfaces. Even on the BTS, we will be configuring sub-interfaces to simulate the services because we only have one connection. So all our VPNs, all our services will be configured using sub-interfaces on this interface. Same on the UPE, the gateways will be configured on different VLANs but on the same interface. So we'll do the same for UPE2 and BTS 02, and then we can do the verifications to ensure that the connectivity is okay between the BTS and the UPE. So these are the configurations starting with the UPE. So this is how you create sub-interfaces on Huawei. Remember the connection, the point-to-point connection between the UPE and the BTS, it's on gig 002. So you are creating a sub interface on this physical interface. So the sub interface will be a logical interface. And then we need to define the VLAN. So the VLAN type.eq define the VLANs that we are configuring on this sub interface. And then we are binding a VPN or the VRF. Remember, when you are doing this configuration, you need to first bind the VRF before you do any other configurations like the IP address assignment. If you start by assigning the IP address, you will have to redo it, because whenever you bind the VPN, it clears other configurations like the IPv4 address configurations will be cleared. So you always have to start by configuring or binding the VPN instance, and then you move to the next stage of configuring the IP address. So that should be the sequence of your configuration. And then we are creating another sub interface. This is for 3G VPN. Same configurations. We define the VLAN, we bind the VPNs, we configure the gateway. And when you are configuring the gateway, remember to give the correct IP address and the mask. If you give a wrong IP address to the one that you will be configuring on the BTS, you will have to spend some time troubleshooting these services. So when you are doing this configuration, always pay attention to the VLAN, the IP address, the VPN, and the gateway IP that has been planned in the LLD. So we are doing the same for other services. This is for 4G VPN. We have 5G VPN. We have O&M VPN. So this is the configuration for UP1. UP2, we do the same. We have these configurations. We are using the same VLANs. Remember, these are on different nodes. So we can use, even when they are connecting on the same node but different interfaces, we can use same VLANs. So we do use the same VLAN for the different services on UP1 and UP2. So these are the configuration. Once you've done these configurations, we can verify that our configurations are okay. We can show the interfaces within the given VPN instances, and then we'll proceed to do the configuration for the BTSs. So let's start by configuring the UPEs. So I'll copy these configurations for the UPEs, starting with UP1. So when you log in, you can see that the interface connecting to BTS01, it's GE002. We can confirm the interface is up, display interface, gigabit 0/0/2. The interface is up, but the line protocol is down. So once we configure the sub interface, now it will be okay. So I'll paste these configurations. And then once I've pasted the configurations, display IP interface brief, we are able to see that we have these sub interfaces have been configured: 1000, 101, 102, 1003, 1004. So these are the sub interfaces for the different radio access technologies. One thing you can also check is you can display ARP interface. You specify the interface, for example, gig 0/0/2.1000. Remember, we haven't configured the far end, so we only have the local IP address that we can learn on this connection. So we'll do similar configurations for UP2, and then we can do further verifications. So I'll copy these configurations, and then on UP2, we are in the system view. Remember to be in the correct configuration view. Then I quit. If I display IP interface brief, you are able to see that we have these sub interfaces have been configured. I can show you the configuration, current configuration. You can see that down here we'll be having the configuration under this interface. So different VLANs, different gateways, different VPNs have been configured correctly. So the next step of our configuration is to configure the services on BTS. So on the BTS, remember, we don't have VRF, so the VPN instances. It's the CE in this case. It's like the customer edge device in this MPLS setup. So we'll just assign a name on the BTS, and then we'll be configuring the sub interface for different services. So this is how we do the configuration for 2G, 3G, 4G, and then 5G, and then O&M. So here you also need to pay attention to the VLAN. If you configure the wrong VLAN, communication will not be there. So you need to configure the correct VLAN. You need to configure the correct IP address. And then this one will ensure that the point-to-point connectivity will be okay. So we do the same for the other BTS 02. This is BTS 02. So I'll copy these configurations, copy, and then on BTS 01, need to paste. Then let's finish the configuration for BTS 02. So I'll copy these configurations, copy, this is BTS 02, and then I paste on this router. So one of the verifications I can do is I can also display IP interface brief. You can see that we have the interface configured with the correct IP addresses. You can also display ARP interface gig 0/0/0.1000. So with the simulation tool, you are not able to learn the MAC address from the other side. What you need to do is you need to try and ping. So if I try to ping on this router, even when I check on the UPE2, if I display ARP all, you can see that we don't have any ARP because we need to initiate a ping communication between the point-to-point link. So on BTS2, I can try to ping 10.160.10.10. You can see that we are able to ping. And then when I go to the UP02, if I display ARP all, we now expect to, this was the local IP, so I need to ping the far end IP, which is .9. You can see that we are able to ping from the BTS to the gateway. So when I go back to the UPE and display ARP all, you can see that we are now able to learn the ARP. We are learning the remote IP address on the BTS. So I can also display, I can ping from this side. I need to ping using the VPN instance. If I just ping without a VRF, I will not be able to ping. So for example, if I ping 10.160.10.10, you can see that we are not able to ping because this interface is bound to a VPN instance. So what I need to do is I need to ping -VPN instance. This is how you ping. Specifying the VPN instance, I specified to GVPN, and then I can now ping 10.160.10.10. You can see that we are able to ping. If I specify a wrong VRF, I should not be able to ping also. So if I specify, for example, 3G VRF, I'm not able to ping. So whenever you are doing the checks and verification, you need to be able to ping using the correct VPN instances. You specify the correct VPN, and then you will be able to ping from the BTS to the UPE. But when you are doing from the UPE, of course, you don't need to specify the VRFs because the VRFs are not configured. So we can also try to ping another IP. If I display ARP all, let's do it from BTS1, display ARP all. You can see that we don't have any ARP. I can try to ping 10.160.163.10.1. So 163.10.1. Let's confirm 10.163.10.1. Let's check on the UPE. If I display ARP all, and then we check. So you see that we've configured a wrong IP. So this is what I was mentioning when I say that you need to ensure that you configure the correct gateway IP. Because if you check on the BTS one, you can see that we've configured this IP 163.10.2. But when you go to the UPE side, you find that we don't have this IP configured. So for us to correct this, we need to be under this interface gig for 5G. This is gig 0/0/2.1003. If I display this, we'll find that we have a wrong IP configured, so I need to configure the correct IP address 10.161.10.163.10.1. Mask is 29. So after configuring the correct IP address, if I go back to BTS1 and try to ping, you can see that we are able to ping. If I go back to UP1 and display ARP all, I'm able to learn the MAC address from the BTS end. So you need to pay attention to the configuration parameters. Ensure you configure the correct VLAN, ensure you configure the correct VPN instance, ensure you configure the correct gateway, both on the BTS and on the UPE. So when we check on the SPE, display IP routing table, VPN instance to GVPN, we are not getting those routes from the UPE. So what we need to do is we need to configure the UPEs to advertise direct and static routes. So sometimes we have static routes configured, but in this case we only have the direct route. So we need to import these routes to the specific VPN standard that we have on the router. So when I go to the UPE and then I paste these configurations, I need to do the same for UPE2. And then now when I run the same command on SP01, you can see that now we've learned the IP addresses from the BTS, the connection between the UPE and the BTS. We are now able to learn those prefixes in different VPN instances. So when I check 5G VPN, I'm also able to learn these prefixes. I can also check on the NPE. If I display IP routing table, VPN instance to GVPN, you can see that we are getting these prefixes from the BTS end. So now the UPE is able to advertise the route to the SPE. And remember, on the SPE, we've specified the UPEs at the UPE. So whenever the SPE learns the route from the UPE, they are able to be propagated to the NPEs. And then NPEs are able to learn those routes from the UPE. But the SPE will only advertise a default route towards the UPE. So that is it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the session. I hope you now understand better how to do the service configurations, why you need to specify the correct VLANs, why you need to do some proper planning before you do service implementation, how to verify the configurations, and also how to test the reachability between the different nodes. So I hope you've enjoyed this session, and in the next session we'll now be focusing on how to configure the VPC. Remember, we need to configure the VPC and also the NPEs using OSPF so that we can now have end-to-end communication from the BTS to the VPC. So thank you so much for watching this session, and just a kind reminder that if you haven't subscribed to our channel, kindly subscribe to our channel, and also remember to like, comment, and share with your connections. Thank you so much again, and see you in our next session. Bye.